Hey everyone. Hey everyone, I'm a fry. Hey everyone, I'm a fry. Hey everyone, so more and more people on social media tend to say that Bloxburg changed and it's not fun anymore and they don't like where it went. They think servers changed and everything. And maybe you are right. Now, before we start, I do want to say that Bloxburg is still the same game that it used to be. It still has as much work as it used to have, but more detailed maybe. So we have to look at certain factors to why people think it changed and how it changed. Now, the first reason, I think, would be private servers. Now, everyone wanted private servers, so there's not really an issue with that, but a lot of people also fled to private servers, and the people who don't play on private servers are usually people who like to roleplay, and then people who play on a private server are usually people who build a lot and build very, very detailed builds. And that brings me immediately to my next point, where building in Bloxburg used to be a simple thing, but then there was this hype of stacking objects, and a lot of people just don't have the patience or time to do that. So building hacks used to be simple. Building hacks used to be something like this. You place a wall, and then inside that wall you place a fireplace like that with a window, and there you had your built-in fireplace. Now, it used to be as simple as that because you weren't normally able to do that, so that was really like one of the best hacks that you could do in Bloxburg. But now the hacks have changed to using roofs and putting swings through your walls like that, and a lot of people just get thrown off by those. So if you do, for example, this, and then you go to swings, this is a more expensive hack, and then you put your swing through the wall like that, and then of course you can add storage shelves to that if you want to. But a lot of the hacks have changed into something like this, where you have lost space. They are more detailed than what they used to be, and they're not as simple anymore. And for Bloxburg as a whole, it is not as simple anymore. You used to be very content with the building, and that was because you had less items to pick from. It's always nice to have a lot of choice, and they really did a lot of work on that, but it just used to be simpler. This window and then this window, the clear window, were like the only windows that were really used in the game. We also had these windows, but it just used to be very simple. If you did something like that and you just painted your wall into a brick material or something like that, then it was amazing, and people actually loved your house because you were so creative with the little stuff that you had. And now there's so much stuff to do. For example, the plate stacking. A pillar is not just a pillar anymore. What you have to do with your pillar now to make it look good compared to others is just build a lot of stuff around it, and that's because of the great builders of the community going into private servers and building for hours on end. But you don't have to do that. So this is just a very bad example. I cannot build in detail like that, but people do stuff with plates and everything, and I feel like for some reason, wow, that's not even centered, but I feel like for some reason it scares off builders who just want to build a nice house and start out on YouTube, because they feel like they have to go into detail like that and they can't just build a normal house anymore. Because let's admit it, speed builds have died out a little bit because people are used to seeing these crazy builds, like how Daniel Perkins built Hogwarts and stuff like that, and they are amazing, but I feel like they are also a little off-putting to people who want to build normal houses like these. And I feel like that kind of scares away some people. I'm not saying this is a bad thing or whatever, but I'm just trying to put the truth of why people think Bloxburg has changed. So my main consensus here is that there's a lot more now, which is good, but it's also bad in that sense that some people are scared to be creative, or they are overwhelmed by the amount of items and the amount of stuff that you can do, and it's hard for them to stick to one style, if that makes sense. And another point to that is Bloxburg started blowing up around October, November, and that was like right when people were asking for Christmas presents, and then some people asked for a Roblox card or a Robux card for Christmas, and they got that. That brought a lot of new players to Bloxburg who didn't know the tips, didn't know what was before in the game and how the game was. And so that brought a whole new wave to the community of new builders and new people who like to roleplay and stuff like that. So that definitely changed. It used to be more reserved and smaller, and if you joined a server and you used to build a house, you were motivated to build places to sit with your friends, to hang out with your friends, to, I don't know, like a dining room where you could just sit with your friends, have some coffee or stuff like that. Doesn't really really happen anymore, I think. And a lot of players either just build or roleplay. There's no middle ground anymore. And there used to be a middle ground, but I feel like it just went a bit to the extremes now, where you either have really detailed builds or you have a not so good build from a role player. And I feel like a lot of people kind of miss that middle ground as well. And then of course, it's always the same old. So buying a new plot can be quite expensive because you need block bucks for it. You can always save up by joining or having a streak, but buying a new plot is expensive. And a lot of people have put a lot of effort into their first house and they kind of don't want to change it up, and they also don't want to make a new one. Some people get a new plot once they saved up for it, but then they're not motivated to actually build a house because they already have a house, and they're also getting bored of that house, but they don't want to remove it because they put a lot of effort into it. So they tend to just not play the game anymore. There used to be a peak to where they like to play the game, and then they got kind of bored of the house. And let's admit it, in the city center, there's not much activities to do as well. You can visit the graveyard here as well and stuff like that, but you get over that quite quickly. And I feel like being able to see everything on the map all at once, because this is quite flat and there's not really a hidden area here, makes it kind of feel like it's dead. Like if there were houses closer, for example, next to the pizza planet, and houses went all the way up to this street, I feel like it would be a little bit better already because people would be closer to the city center and maybe would go into the city center more. But I feel like this road and then this other road over there kind of creates a wall, or how would I say it, between where people live and where the city center is, because this is just empty area and a lot of people just tend to not cross it because it's too much effort, especially if you're by foot. It's a really long walk. But I feel like if houses were closer to the city center, then maybe more people would be in it. And then another main contributing factor to why people think Bloxburg has shifted and why they don't think it's not as fun anymore is that the updates come slower than how some people want it to. Like, pets have been promised for years, a school has been promised for years, but you have to keep in mind that only Coeptus and Froggy Hops are working on the game, whereas in Adopt Me, there's a team of 30 people working on it. So that's quite the difference as well. And a lot of people were also disappointed with the map change. The map change was like one of the most requested things. And then when the map got bigger, it was basically the same map with just an extra layer of road, which is kind of useless because I barely see anyone going up to the campsite anymore. And then there's a gas station over there, but we already have a gas station in the city center and a store in the city center. So no one really goes up there unless they are really bored and they have nothing to do and they just want to drive around a little bit. But other than that, I don't think the highway gets used quite a bit. So the map expansion, as nice as it was kind of useless as well. And so I feel like that got a lot of people angry. Then a lot of people also have been asking for a school for a while, and there's still no school because it's quite hard to implement that. And I feel like people are just kind of like getting bored with the map because they always see the same. And I feel like it would be nicer if there were sudden close off areas, like if a mountain was in the middle of the map where you can't see the other side of the map, and maybe more players, even though that would be hard. But I feel like that would be a very nice thing to see and would maybe bring players back to the game. And then the changes, even though some of the changes were really big, like basements and walls and stuff like that, they're never gonna be the same as the start of the game. The first updates felt like huge updates because we didn't have anything of that sort. For example, the gardening update, we basically had nothing for the garden, and then suddenly the gardening update came around, and then we suddenly had a ton of stuff for the garden, which was amazing. But then also with that came the withering, and a lot of people had flowers everywhere. They looked so pretty. And then all of a sudden, your flowers started withering. And you need to water all of them constantly. So you don't see any more flower gardens. Flowers basically are rendered useless now. And that's another factor as well. But for example, when the sliding doors update came, it was a huge update because the only doors we had were just normal doors. And then suddenly sliding doors were in game, and that was amazing. But right now, it just feels like adding stuff to something we already have, and that's why the updates feel a little bit smaller. For example, the kitchen update, we already had counters, we already had cabinets, they just added to it. I don't know if we actually had cabinets, but they just added to the kitchen stuff that we already had. Not that it's a bad thing, but it will always feel smaller than having something completely new that we didn't have before. Ceiling lights was a big one as well, even though if new ceiling lights were to be added now, it wouldn't feel as big, just because we already have ceiling lights. And the fake ban wave also scared a lot of people away from playing Welcome to Bloxburg. So hackers used to be able to go under the radar a lot more, and then suddenly they were found out, and a lot of people were going on Twitter saying like, I did nothing wrong, I got banned for no reason, and people got scared to play Bloxburg, and they were scared to even open it because they would get banned and maybe they had some glitched money, and people were scared of a ban wave that actually didn't happen. The only people that got banned were people who actually scammed and hacked money into the game, and then some of them even got to apply for an unban. Like, what game allows you to be unbanned after you hacked? Which I don't know any other game that would do that. If you played a game like The Sims or GTA 5, if you get banned, you get permanently banned, and there's no way to contact any developer to apply for an unban. So that is a crazy thing. But yeah, I just feel like when people load into Bloxburg, they see the same old over and over, and that gets them bored. When they're done building their house, there's not really anything more for them to do here. And I feel like that's why people tend to say that it shifted, because they used to be really into the game, building, detailing their house, and then someone else came along with 100% plot data with a house that looks 100 times better, because new players came to the game, and normal houses aren't really as common on YouTube anymore just because speed builds kind of died. So that's a contributing factor as well, and I felt like with the aesthetic movement, nothing against aesthetic builders, but with the aesthetic movements, a lot of people tend to paint everything in the same color in their house because it does look good, but it also gets boring way too quickly. So there's a lot of factors to why people think it shifted. It didn't really shift, but there's a lot of factors to that as well. Also, the fact that Roblox removed the party system where you could create a party and then go to the same server does not exist anymore. So you either have to join a friend or meet them in a private server, which makes it a little bit different as well. But a lot of the things we asked for actually changed the game, for the better or for the worse, but they did change the game, and the community changed as a whole with it. Now, that was my video for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This is kind of like a random video, but a lot of people are still saying that Bloxburg changed, even though it hasn't changed as much, or we asked for it to change, and they actually gave it to us. So while I was editing, I thought of something I forgot to say, and that is a lot of news channels and leaks channels have been popping up everywhere as well, so people are seeing all the leaks before the update actually drops, so it's not really a surprise anymore when an update drops because everything has been leaked before, so you don't really have that wow effect when an update drops because you already know what's going to come. That was it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe.